begin with.
Good morning. My name is Adam Ziska, Z-I-S-H-K-A. I'm the patrol captain for the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office. I'm here to talk about a fatality car accident that was reported last night in the county. At around 7:45 p.m. last night, deputies were dispatched to the area of Highway 42 and Cherry Lake Avenue in Sioux Falls. They were dispatched along with the Sioux Falls Police Department, the Highway Patrol, for a pedestrian that had been struck in the roadway. The deputies were not far away, arrived, and started life-saving procedures on the pedestrian. They were assisted by a passerby who was also a medical professional. An ambulance arrived, the pedestrian was loaded into it, and he was ultimately found by those medical professionals to be deceased. The investigation was conducted on the scene. We had a number of initial findings. The vehicle that had struck the pedestrian was a 2004 Chevy Suburban. It was pulling a utility trailer eastbound. The driver of that vehicle stayed on scene and was cooperative throughout the investigation. Ultimately, the driver of that vehicle was charged with DWI in the first. During the course of our investigation, we were able to obtain some video footage nearby. In that video footage, several cars pass the scene before law enforcement arrived and continue on. Ultimately, one of those vehicles struck the pedestrian a second time, and that vehicle did not stop and continued eastbound. That vehicle is described as a four-door sedan, late model silver car. And so what we're looking for is information from anyone who may have passed by that knows anything about this incident, that possibly was involved in this incident. We'd encourage those people to either contact Crime Stoppers or contact the Minnehaha County Sheriff's Office directly. And I can answer any questions that you might have.
Any other charges for the driver of that Chevy Suburban other than DUI?
Yep. This investigation is ongoing, and so once the investigation is complete, the entire case will be sent to the state's attorney's office for consideration of additional charges.
With speed a factor?
I can't answer that question because of the investigation.
The deceased individual, were they walking along the side of the road?
Yep, so the report was that the pedestrian was in the roadway, not adjacent to it. Evidence at the scene corroborates that the person was in the roadway.
Which direction were they walking then?
I can't determine which direction they were walking, but the vehicles were traveling eastbound.
Can you tell us how old the victim was?
I can't release any of that information. We're still trying to identify family members.
There's street lights in that area. What was the lighting like?
I can't answer that. I wasn't there. I am familiar with that area. It's close to a major intersection, which is 12th and Ellis, but I'm not familiar with that intersection.
So right now, just to kind of recap, you're looking for a four-door silver vehicle?
Yeah, a sedan type vehicle. Yeah, that's the best I can describe it. This individual, after the second vehicle to strike the pedestrian, they continued eastbound. But what we do have on the video also shows us that there were multiple people who traveled through the scene that weren't involved in the incident whatsoever. But if they have information, that's what we're looking for.
Do you know if that silver sedan was driven by male, female, how many occupants, anything other than just the vehicle?
No, we don't have any of that information. So, thank you.
Okay, we've got one big thing on the log today. It's the first aggravated assault, and this happened. We were called about 12:50 a.m. This was at the Flying J Travel Plaza on North Granite Lane. This was a shooting that took place. What led up to it, there was a guy that had parked a vehicle in the lot, and he went into the store with a dog and some other items and basically made a comment to the clerk that he was going to leave the dog there and then walked outside. She got hold of her boss and the boss, which ends up being our victim, grabbed the dog and the other items and found the man outside and said that they weren't able to have the dog inside, weren't able to be responsible for it. And things seemed to end at that point in time. About 20 minutes later or so, it's kind of a rough estimate, but the guy with the dog returned to the store, walked inside, placed a bullet on the counter, and essentially made a threat that this was going to be for the victim. The victim grabbed the bullet, called 911, was walking to a back room, and as he walked in, he heard a door close behind him. He turned and saw the suspect was pointing a gun at him. The suspect fired the gun twice. The victim was hit twice in the arm, and then the suspect left. We had officers that came. A gun was found outside that matched the gun that was used, and the suspect was found outside nearby as well. So initially he was arrested for aggravated assault, committing a felony with a firearm, possession of a firearm by a former violent offender, and possession of stolen property. The gun had been reported stolen out of Texas. And I heard this morning additionally that the state's attorney's office added a charge of attempted murder. I don't think that's been reflected on his jail log yet at this point, but he will be charged with attempted murder in court. The victim was taken to the hospital. The injuries were described as non-life-threatening. We didn't have any reports of anybody else that was threatened or any other gunshots that were fired.
How old was the victim?
The victim is 22.
22-year-old man?
Yep, a male. Both of them are men. And do you want his name?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Last name is Harvey, Harvey. First is Michael, Michael, and he's 37. I don't have an address at all, so I don't know where he's from. I don't believe he's from the area, but I don't know exactly.
His vehicle, did it have out-of-state plates? Do you know?
That I don't know. There's quite a few reports. I haven't had a chance to review all of them. The few that I did read, it just said this vehicle was found in the lot, so I'm sure it probably has some plates on it, but I don't know. None of it said what state it was from.
You said that the gun was found separate from the suspect.
Right.
But he tried to dispose of it?
It was just, I think it was just laying on the ground outside. So I don't know if he dropped it or threw it, or, I mean, I don't think it was concealed at all. I don't know why he didn't have it anymore, I guess, so I don't have an answer to that.
So you mentioned that they called the man, or called the female called the male, and was he not there and called him in?
He was in a back area,
Okay.
a different area. He was on, at the business. He just wasn't up at the front counter, and I think she probably didn't know what to do with this dog, and then just reported it to her supervisor.
Okay, so the Flying J on North Granite Lane, that's the one on the northwest side?
Yes, northwest side.
And the dogs with Humane Society, I'd assume?
No, I didn't see anything in the report about the dog, but I would guess that, I mean, in situations like that, the dog would have been taken somewhere for safekeeping, so I would guess Humane Society is probably where it's at. Anything else on that one? Okay, not much else. The aggravated assault, that was a person that was threatened with a knife. No injuries on that, no arrests have been made. The one assault is a domestic. The burglary, we had some apartments. Some guy tried to break into a business. We found him before he was able to get inside, so he was arrested. Houses, a couple of garages entered as well. Counterfeiting was a fake 100 that was passed. Nothing big out of the disorderlies. Some reports, quite a few of them involved juveniles. Family disputes, nothing big from those. The frauds, we had a couple of more fake bills. One was at a casino, one was at a fast food restaurant. A few ID thefts, some other reports. Larcenies, some shopliftings, a couple of unlocked cars. One of them had a gun that was taken from it. Purse, license plate, nothing else real big. Narcotics were no big quantities on those. The rapes are both reports. The robbery, that was the guy that was punched and somebody took some cigarettes from him. No serious injuries from that. The suspect hasn't been found. Simple assaults are both domestics, and the vandalisms, cars and apartments basically were damaged.
Back to that burglary. He was found outside, so was he charged with burglary or was it attempted
Yeah,
burglary?
it was
or-
an attempt. That was the 3800 block of North Cliff Avenue. And that was about 8:45 is when we were called. It was third-degree burglary, intentional damage to property, and false impersonation were his charges. But it was, somebody saw him using a power tool trying to break into the business, and then they called police, and the suspect was still there when the officers arrived.
And who's the suspect?
He is... His last name is Werner, W-E-R-N-E-R. First is Clarence, C-L-A-R-E-N-C-E. Middle is Earl, E-A-R-L. He's 54 from Sioux Falls.
And you said he made a statement about that he, like a false impersonation or something like that?
He
Did
just gave a fake name.
Oh, okay, I didn't know
Yeah.
if he claimed to be an employee.
No,
there
no.
or-
He just, when the officers asked to identify him, he gave a fake name. That's
Okay.
what that charge is. Anything else? Okay, thanks.
No, didn't you hear the department got a new